You know, we're sitting here, you and I, like a couple of regular fellows. I mean, you do what you do, I do what I gotta do. And now that we've been face to face.
Some action scenes are exciting. And then there's the shootout in Heat, the one that rattles your chest even when you're watching on a laptop at 2 a.m. The one directors still study, the one cops still talk about, the one that made every action movie afterward look like it needed to hit the gym. The wild part is, that scene wasn't an accident. It came from months of prep, obsessive detail, and a director who treated a fictional heist like it was a real operation. And the deeper you go into how this thing was made, the crazier it gets. So let's break it down. 12 hidden facts behind the greatest shootout ever filmed. Number 12. Mann didn't choreograph the shootout. He planned an escape route. Right from the start, Mann decided he didn't want a movie gunfight. You know the type, slow motion dives, perfectly timed explosions, dramatic poses that look great on posters but make zero sense in real life. For Heat, he did the opposite. He got tactical advisors, mapped downtown Los Angeles like he was planning a real robbery, and built a full escape plan. Then he walked the cast through it, beat by beat, until they could move through the streets without thinking. That's why the sequence feels so unnervingly real. It doesn't play like a choreographed fight. It plays like a plan gone wrong. Every step De Niro takes, every little shift Kilmer makes for cover feels natural. Not because the actors are geniuses, but because they spent weeks learning the logic behind every move. And this is where the fun starts, because that training led directly to the next secret. Number 11. The cast trained with live ammunition. Most productions are terrified of anything louder than a cap gun. Mann basically threw the safety handbook into the nearest dumpster and said, "Okay guys, grab your rifles." He took the crew to a live fire facility and had them run the entire shootout. The same movements, same reloads, same distances, but with real bullets. Pacino, De Niro, Kilmer, Sizemore, all of them learning how it actually feels to fire in formation. That's why the actors don't flinch, don't blink weirdly, don't hold the guns like confused accountants. They move like people who've done this before, because by the time filming started, they basically had. And Val Kilmer's ultra-smooth reload, the one that looks too good to be acting, the Marine Corps literally used it in training. How many Hollywood movies can say that? That boot camp also set up another key decision, a sound choice that made the scene legendary. Number 10. The gunfire you hear is real on-set audio. Here's the part that always surprises people. In the 90s, this was almost unheard of. Big studios didn't want real rifle blasts echoing between skyscrapers because it made sound editing a nightmare. But Mann, he didn't care. He wanted the real echo, the one you only get when rifles are going off between downtown skyscrapers. So he recorded the actual gunfire on set. What you hear in the movie is exactly what the actors heard in that moment. The echo bouncing off glass walls, the metallic ring of bullets smashing into cars, the panic in the background as extras scramble for cover. No studio gunshot pack can fake that, and the result is why the Heat shootout hits your ears like a thunderclap. The decision wasn't popular with the sound team, but Mann wasn't done breaking rules. Because the next thing that shaped this shootout, it didn't come from Hollywood at all. It came from a real gun battle in LA. If you grew up watching scenes like this on worn-out VHS tapes and wondering, how did they make that look so real? Hit subscribe. That's the stuff we dig into here, the little movie secrets we used to have to hunt for in DVD bonus features. Number 9. The shootout was inspired by a real 1963 Los Angeles robbery. Mann is a research junkie. Whatever the average director studies for a crime movie, Mann does 10 times more. While digging into real heists, he got obsessed with a 1963 North Hollywood robbery, where a small crew of heavily armed men got into a huge street battle with the LAPD. Not the famous 1997 one, an earlier one. That real shootout had all the elements Mann loved: discipline and criminals who didn't panic when things got chaotic. He used it as a blueprint for how disciplined Neil McCauley's crew needed to be when everything exploded around them. When you watch Heat with that in mind, you notice the difference immediately. This isn't a gang of movie criminals winging it. They operate like a dark mirror version of a SWAT team. And speaking of Neil McCauley, number 8. Yes, Neil McCauley was a real criminal. This might be the coolest part of the entire film. The character De Niro plays, the calm, cold planner, is based on a real Chicago thief Mann researched in the 1970s. The real Neil McCauley lived by the exact rule you hear in the movie. Never get attached to anything you can't walk away from in 30 seconds, if the heat is coming around the corner. And the coffee scene, where Pacino and De Niro sit across from each other at a diner, that actually happened. Detective Chuck Adamson met the real Macaulay for coffee while pursuing him. Mann heard the story, put it in the script almost word for word, and built the entire film around two men who respected each other but were destined to collide. The real story ended the same way. Adamson shot Macaulay during a robbery. Mann never forgot that ending, and it shaped the emotional spine of Heat. Now, if the real inspiration sounds surprising, this next piece is even stranger. Number 7. Every major scene was shot on real LA streets. Most movies cheat with sound stages, fake alleys, backlot banks. Mann refused all of it. He shot the entire film on location in Los Angeles. Intersections, late-night diners, apartments, all of it was real. Most studios hated shooting fully on location because it meant unpredictable lighting, real crowds, and zero control. But Mann wanted these imperfections. Even the shootout took place on an actual downtown street, which Mann blocked off for weeks, so the team could rehearse the sequence like an actual operation. You can tell immediately. The city just looks real. The geography makes sense because Mann didn't invent it. It doesn't feel staged. It feels like they're really working their way through LA. That commitment to authenticity trickled down to how the cast communicated during the shootout too. If this breakdown is giving you that old school movie geek feeling, like staying up too late watching behind the scenes clips on cable, tap that like button. It helps more nostalgic film fans find these deep dives. Number 6. The actors wore hidden earpieces feeding them live instructions. During the shootout, when you see De Niro look over his shoulder or Pacino adjust his angle, it's not because the script said, "moment of tactical evaluation." It's because someone in their ear was feeding them real tactical cues. Mann wanted the actors reacting to information the way real criminals and cops would. Fast, instinctively, and sometimes with incomplete intel. The earpieces were Mann's way of injecting unpredictability into the scene. So when the actors turn, fall back, or sprint at exactly the right moment, it's because they're processing new instructions live. No pauses, no retakes to get the reaction right. It wasn't acting, it was reacting, and the extras on the street had their own surprise coming. Number 5. Some extras didn't know the timing of the gunfire. Mann told some background actors a shootout would happen, but he didn't tell them exactly when. So when the first blasts echoed between the buildings, a lot of those jumps and panicked reactions weren't scripted at all. They were real. It gave the scene this jittery, unpredictable edge. You can feel the shock, not just from the main actors, but from the little moments in the background. The kind you don't notice until your third or fourth rewatch. Number 4. Pacino based his character on real detectives, who really acted like that. Vincent Hanna's intensity came straight from real homicide detectives. He yells, he twitches, he barks responses like he's been awake for 17 days straight. And honestly, he kind of has. Pacino toured homicide units to prep for the role, and he noticed something. The detectives who lived in their job had this manic, short-fused energy. It wasn't cute, it wasn't charming. It was the kind of personality you get from living in a pressure cooker. So, Pacino dialed that up. Not in a jokey way, but in a "this guy has seen everything and is barely holding himself together" way. That energy bleeds into the shootout too. He doesn't look like the calm action hero. He looks like a man running on fumes and instincts. And that contrast between a ragged detective and a ruthlessly efficient crew is what makes the shootout so tense. The crew really does outclass him, except for one thing. Number 3. The crew's retreat is 100% military accurate. Watch closely. When the heist collapses, the crew doesn't scatter. They retreat in formation. One moves, the others cover. Then they switch. Then they push forward as a unit. That technique is called bounding overwatch. This is the same tactic used by Marines and Army Rangers when breaking contact under fire. Seeing it in a Hollywood film was almost shocking at the time. Most crime movies have characters running around like they've never held a gun before. Zero coordination. Heat treats the criminals like professionals. It's clever, but it's why the scene never feels chaotic. Even when the bullets are flying everywhere, you're watching a group that knows exactly what it's doing. And that brings us to one of the most surprising parts of the whole movie. Number 2. De Niro and Kilmer planned the street movements like actual teammates. This is one of the most underrated pieces of behind-the-scenes trivia. De Niro and Kilmer spent days walking the streets together, planning how they'd move as a team, not as actors, as Neil and Chris. They figured out who would cover which angle, what their verbal and nonverbal cues would be, how they'd shift if the police response changed, and where their escape windows are. That's why they move so well together on screen. It's not two actors shooting guns in the same scene. It's two actors executing a plan they've drilled endlessly. And speaking of plans, the whole shootout was nearly derailed by something nobody expected. Number 1. A real-life shooting happened near the set during production. This is the craziest fact of the whole thing. While filming the shootout, a real shooting happened only a few blocks away from the movie location. Actual gunfire, real police response. For a moment, the set went quiet because no one knew if the sounds echoing through downtown were movie chaos or the real thing. The LAPD had to confirm the incident was unrelated before the production could continue. It's eerie, but it also shows just how real the environment was. Hollywood was staging a firefight while an actual one was happening nearby. Only Heat could accidentally create a moment like that. 1995 gave us a lot of great movies, but Heat still stands in its own lane. Almost 30 years later, no one has recreated the weight of that shootout. A lot of films have borrowed from it, but none of them feel like this. Because when you combine real tactics, real sound, real streets, and actors trained to move like an actual crew, you end up with something that can't be duplicated. If you enjoyed diving into the anatomy of this classic, hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into the parts of filmmaking most people never get to see. And tell us in the comments, which fact caught you off guard? Because in every classic, there's a secret waiting to be uncovered.